Good evening, everyone. Mike Palmer from Know Your Rights Group and Success Coaching International with another important live video update. So the big news of this week, at least in the truth movement, especially over the past few days, has been all about the uproar over Donald Trump changing his position in regards to the Epstein files. So first he said that he was going to release everything during his presidential campaign. Then he released just a small amount, which was pretty much already out there. Now he's just saying the whole thing is all just a hoax. Now, not surprisingly, there has been a lot of discussion about this topic, especially, as I said, this past week. And actually, there's been a lot of backlash, especially from his loyal MAGA, Make America Great Again supporters. So if you've missed some of the articles, there's a few that are doing the rounds, but he's become quite heated about it all now. Trump lashes out at weaklings who believe Epstein BS amid building GOP pressure to release documents. President Donald Trump is accusing some of his one-time supporters of being weaklings who are falling prey to Democratic BS about the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, concluding that he no longer wants their support. The message was the clearest sign yet of the cracks emerging in the president's coalition, many of whom are loudly demanding more information about the disgraced financier, who has been subject to a myriad of conspiracies since his death by suicide in 2019. And some of its allies don't appear to be listening, with Republicans in Congress taking steps Wednesday morning to potentially force the Justice Department to release more documents. Their new scam is what will forever be called the Jeffrey Epstein hoax, and my past supporters have bought into this BS hook, line and sinker, Trump wrote in a missive on Truth Social. They haven't learned their lesson and probably never will, even after being conned by the lunatic left for 8 long years. Trump said the Epstein controversy roiling now for more than a week after his Justice Department announced in a memo that there was no Epstein client list and it didn't plan to release any more documents in the investigation. What was distracting from the success of his presidency. I have had more success in 6 months than perhaps any president in our country's history. And all those people want to talk about with strong prodding by the fake news and the success-starved Dems is the Jeffrey Epstein hoax, he wrote. Let these weaklings continue forward and do the Democrats' work. We don't even think about talking of our incredible and unprecedented success because I don't want their support anymore. The angry message was Trump's strongest rebuke of his own supporters, many of whom have been vocally furious with his administration's handling of the Epstein matter. Later in the day, the president struck a softer tone from the Oval Office, saying Attorney General Pam Bondi could release any more credible files, but still decrying some stupid and foolish Republicans who were harping on the issue. While Trump has dismissed the controversy as sordid and uninteresting before his post on Wednesday, he hadn't gone as far as disavowing some of his staunchest allies who continue to press for more information. As of Tuesday, those allies notably included House Speaker Mike Johnson, who in an interview with right-wing influencer Benny Johnson called for more transparency in the matter, saying we should put everything out there and let the people decide it. On Wednesday afternoon, he reiterated he was for transparency, but echoed Trump's line that only credible information should be publicly released. So, are the files real? Is there really more to them, or are they just the hoax that he now claims? Who knows? Will he ultimately bow to pressure to release more information? Again, who knows? Why has Trump changed his position so drastically? Again, who really knows? What I do know, however, is what I've said all along, and that is that Trump is not anyone's savior. Okay, he has his own agenda, just like pretty much everybody else out there does. Now, he may well still be fighting to make America great again or to drain the swamp or whatever else, and maybe that's why he can't release any more info just yet, or maybe it's just for personal reasons. But Here's the thing. At the end of the day, neither Trump nor anyone else, okay, is going to fix the world or save the world or anything like that. It is up to each of us to research the topics that are of interest and importance to us, whether that be putting an end to child sex trafficking, whether that's lowering taxes and the insane cost of living, fixing the completely broken health system, education system and legal systems in this country, or any of the other endless issues that we all face on a day-to-day basis. The point is, everyone needs to focus on what they can do to make the world a better place, and then go out and do it. Okay, and don't get too caught up on what any one single other person is out there doing or not doing. Okay, if it is to be, it's up to me. That's what people need to keep in mind. Now, speaking of some of those issues that we're all facing on a day-to-day basis, one of the biggest ones is the one I've spoken about many times on these videos, and that is this ever-increasing road toll in most states, and of course the absolutely blatant revenue raising that continues to go on despite all of those completely unnecessary and indeed completely unavoidable road deaths. Now, one of the key strategies that they use to just keep making money is to just keep lowering and lowering and lowering the speed limits. I'm pretty sure that everybody watching this video is aware of a road, or maybe even a number of roads somewhere in their local area that was perhaps completely safe to drive on at 100 kilometers an hour a year or two ago, but is now apparently only safe to drive on at 90 kilometers an hour or even 80 kilometers an hour. Roads that were perfectly safe to drive on at 80 kilometers an hour, a year or so back have now been dropped to 70 kilometers an hour, even 60 kilometers an hour, and so on. Well, down in the Mornington Peninsula in Victoria, that's exactly what's happening once again. Any of you who are in that area or who might travel to that area, I urge you to be aware of this article. And of course, this is just a small snapshot of what is going on around the entire country. Speed limits slashed on Frankston-Flinders Road. Sections of the Frankston-Flinders Road are set to have their speed limits reduced by the end of the year to enhance safety and address community concerns. The changes include 1.9 kilometres between Tyab and Hastings, 90 k's down to 80 k's, 4 kilometres between Bittern and Balnarring, 90 k's to 80 k's, 1.8 kilometres between Balnarring and Merricks, 100 k's down to just 80 k's. Other sections include 3.4 kilometres between Merricks and Shoreham, 100 k's down to 80 k's, and 4.1 kilometres between Shoreham and Flinders, again 100 k's dropped right down to 80 k's an hour. The Department of Transport and Planning announced the new measures earlier this month. When setting speed limits, we need to carefully balance keeping everyone safe on our roads and keeping people moving, a spokesperson said. Well, it doesn't seem to be any balance with keeping people moving because all they ever do is lower the limits. I don't remember the last road that had a speed limit increased. The Shire has made road safety a priority, having recently allocated $13.1 million for road maintenance in its latest budget, a 72% increase on last year, with a further $30,000 to go towards safer speed limits. So they're going to spend $13.1 million on improving the roads, and then they're going to spend another $30,000 lowering the speed limits. Does that make sense to anybody at all? It will also host a road safety workshop this month, bringing together MPs, state officials and emergency services with its findings to form part of its draft towards zero road safety strategy. Here's a hint for you. There is no such thing as a zero road toll. Okay? Go and look anywhere around the world and find any country that has a zero road toll. Okay? It doesn't exist. It's completely unrealistic. So why they spend millions and millions and millions of dollars of taxpayer money on something that simply can't be achieved? Last month, the Shire also secured a $3.9 million win through the federal government's Black Spot program, which will address 7 dangerous road sites on the peninsula. Meanwhile, the Summers Residents Association is preparing to launch its road safety campaign, which will advocate to have the speed limits of all unsealed roads reduced to 30 kilometres an hour. I mean, this is just madness, people. This is absolute madness. I mean, are they going to actually raise the speed limits up after they spend all these millions on these roads and make them safer? Or are they just going to continue reducing the speed limits? And seriously, this muppet that's come up with this idea of 30 kilometre an hour speed limits on back roads in a rural area clearly has too much gravel in their brain or dirt in their head or something. I mean, that's just ludicrous. Now, thankfully, there are still some people with a brain in this country, and those very people have actually managed to ensure that common sense prevailed over pandering, which is all this is, okay, when the National Assembly of Local Governments thankfully chose to reject the ridiculous proposal to reduce the default speed limit on all residential streets around the whole country from 50 kilometres an hour, which has worked perfectly well for the last 20, 25 years, down to just 40 kilometres an hour. Okay, so if anyone wants a little bit of good news, then go and read this article where common sense has prevailed. Call for Australia-wide 40 kilometre an hour residential area speed reductions unsuccessful at national meeting. A National Assembly of Local Governments has rejected a proposal from the City of Vincent for the default speed limit on residential roads to be cut from 50 kilometres to just 40 kilometres an hour. But Perth councils will continue to implement the lower speed limit on their streets. So we've had a meeting, we don't like what was agreed at the meeting, so we're just going to barrel on and do what we want anyway. I mean, brilliant, isn't it? Vincent Mayor Alison Zamon presented a motion for the lower limit at the National General Assembly for the local government in Canberra last month. Her argument included the number of road crash deaths in Australia and that 45% of crashes were in urban areas. That means over half the crashes were actually in rural areas, and I'll come back to that in a moment. Ms. Zamon said that there was only a brief discussion which lasted about only 5 minutes, which is about 4.5 minutes longer than it should have lasted. It should have been rejected the minute the stupid words came out of her mouth. From what we could observe, there seemed to be a difference in views between regional and metropolitan councils, with some regional councils voting against the motion. Again, thankfully, someone's still got a brain out there. We'll continue to advocate for safer and slower streets in metropolitan residential areas across the country. How slow does she want us to go? 40, 30, 20, 10, 5? Eliminate all cars off all residential streets? Where does it end? Okay? This is what they're pushing for. More and more and more and more control. Okay? And it just never, ever ends. 50 kilometres an hour on residential streets is plenty slow enough. They certainly don't need to be lowered any further. But what clearly does need to happen is that rural speed limits need to be increased. Okay, because the majority of rural fatalities are single vehicle accidents where the driver has simply fallen asleep because they're so bored because they're driving so slowly. Now, here's the problem though. God forbid anyone with a brain actually mentions that it might make sense for people to do something a little bit faster and therefore be a little bit more focused on what they're doing, and those people get absolutely slammed, as this next article details. This is what happens when someone dares suggest, oh, maybe we should actually look at increasing the speed limit. Exclusive. Nationals WA slam online discussion to increase country speed limits. The WA National Party have slammed online discussion of increasing regional speed limits to, God forbid, 130 kilometres an hour. The Nationals WA would not be supportive of increasing limits to 130 kilometres an hour, and that really comes down to concerns around the survivability of an accident at that speed. Really? ABS, airbags, seat belts, crumple zones, all of that, and you're worried about the survivability. Honestly, It's not that people can't drive safely at those speeds. Excellent. Finally, they admit the truth. On a very open road and long straight stretch. But the reality is, if you were to have an accident at that speed, you're not going to survive it. And with the road toll where it's sitting right now, it's about 112 people now have died on our roads, and we're on track for our worst road toll in a very long time. Not since 2008 have we had numbers like this. So, they keep slowing everybody down, they keep installing new cameras, they keep issuing more fines than ever before, and yet by their own admissions, the road toll keeps going up. And this insanity that if you were going to have an accident at that speed, you're not going to survive, is absolute garbage. Go and look at, some of these, true high-speed crashes, cannonball runs and gumball rallies and things like that, where people in Ferraris and Lamborghinis and Mercedes and these high-powered cars have, had accidents at 200, 250 k's an hour and walked away with barely a scratch. Okay, to say no one's going to survive a crash if they have an accident at 130 k's an hour is absolute garbage. Where's the data? Where's the evidence to back up these wild and baseless claims? But as I said before, research shows that if people were driving a little bit quicker, they'd be a lot more focused, so they would actually be far less likely to have an accident, not more. And that's the thing that these morons just don't understand. So, what do you guys think? Okay, do you think that with the majority of cars nowadays having things like ABS, multiple airbags, seatbelt tensioners, higher NCAP safety ratings than ever before, and a multitude of other driver and safety aids, do you think we should still be driving around on roads with the same speed limits that we've had from 50 years ago, or in fact considerably less? Or do you think that with all of those safety factors considered, that perhaps we should be increasing the speed limit on open roads, things like highways, freeways, things like that, just a little bit? Okay? To me, it makes sense, but by all means, put your comments in and let us know what you think. The example that I always give people is like cutting up the veggies for dinner. Okay, you go out, you watch a chef do it in a restaurant and they chop things at 1,000,000 miles an hour, but they're very focused on what they're doing and they very rarely cut themselves. Now you stand there in the kitchen and you're distracted by the kids yelling, or you've got the phone tucked under your ear, or you're watching the TV and you cut things a lot slower, and you're the ones that tend to nick themselves and slice themselves accidentally because you're focused on all these other things instead of the job at hand. Okay, so please feel free, leave your comments in the video. Let us know your thoughts. And as always, if you want to learn the true, genuine strategies that are honestly going to make our roads safer for all motorists, and most importantly, how we can force the governments to implement those strategies, please grab a copy of this Aussie Speeding Fines book. As always, you'll find a link in the description and in the comments section as well. All right, now, speaking of our roads, if you missed the next story, then you might want to look it up because it's a fascinating story about a street sweeper who stood his ground against these ridiculous welcome to country events that his council was forcing upon him and eventually fired him over. He then won his unfair dismissal case and now he wants to get into politics. And I believe that these are the exact sort of people that we want in politics rather than the Muppets that we currently have. So this is the story, and I urge you all to go and have a read of it and keep an eye out for this name. Street sweeper Sean Turner reveals political ambitions following sacking over acknowledgement of country objection. A street sweeper who won his unfair dismissal case after objecting to an acknowledgement of country last year has revealed he is now considering a career in politics. Melbourne man Sean Turner was let go by Victoria's Darebin City Council in June 2024 over questioning why an acknowledgement of country was being introduced at a toolbox meeting involving the council's street cleaning team. Really? I mean, you just got to shake your head to begin with, don't you? Mr. Turner stood by his questioning in the meeting where he argued people who have worn the uniform and fought for Australia should be thanked, and he won an unfair dismissal case against the council in June. The Australian reports Mr. Turner has received a compensation package following a Fair Work Commission mediation hearing on Tuesday, with the terms of the settlement being kept confidential. There's a surprise. The 60-year-old is now planning on taking some time out to consider where I sort of go next, according to the masthead. Yes, as I said, who knows? Maybe politics, Mr. Turner said. He also said he's been treating a potential debut in politics very seriously, eyeing up a Senate seat in particular. I've had a lot of time to read, I watch a lot of political shows, and I have ideas, he said, according to the Australian. I'd probably like to run in the Senate. So, as I said, these are the kinds of people that we want running for office. People who are passionate about specific topics of concern, not these career politicians, okay, who've never worked a proper day in their lives. Now, on the topic of people standing up and fighting back, here's another feel-good story, this time about a pensioner who is single-handedly taking on the NAB, the National Australia Bank, and pursuing hundreds of millions of dollars in compensation. Again, fascinating article. I urge you all to read it. Pensioner takes NAB to Supreme Court over $1,338 in fraudulent transactions. It was a cool grey spring morning in 2022 when Ian Williams woke up and discovered 2 transactions on his account he did not make. One was for $515, the other was $823. They'd been made a few days earlier at a Coles supermarket in Bundoora, about 150 kilometres from his regional Victorian home in Bendigo. He called the bank and was told to wait while staff investigated. 2 hours later, he said, a customer service representative from UBank, a subsidiary of National Australia Bank, called him back and said that, according to the bank's payment data, the transactions were made using Williams' Google Pay account. Yet another reason to never sign up for those accounts and always use cash. They said I was guilty, I was responsible, that I was personally at Coles to do the transactions with my phone and my thumbprint. This was an accusation he would never let go. 2.5 years later, Williams was outside the Supreme Court in Melbourne. He'd just learned he could be in line to win more than $300 million in his case against the bank over the fraud. After months of scrolling through codes, acts and case law to represent himself in the most David and Goliath of cases, the bank hadn't shown up at court and the judge had found in his favour. Now the article goes on and speaks about how the bank then turned up late and then they appealed it and all the rest of it. And then there's a subheading, the legal case that nobody would take on. Nobody would take it on, maybe because it's a bank and they're too big to fight, he said. So, about 18 months after the bank's final offer, on a mild summer day in December 2024, Williams caught the train down to Melbourne with his friend Richard Sugden to the headquarters of NAB. There, armed with a stack of papers, he sat down with a woman from the bank called Sarah, and took her through his 14-page writ that outlined he was seeking $379 million in exemplary damages. Williams had calculated that the $1,338 was about 5.5% of his annual pension, and $379.05 million was 5.5% of NAB's 2022 profit after tax. Things need to be proportionate, he said. And that's a word, as I said, any long-term followers of our channel will know we've used many, many times before, especially with regard to the COVID stuff. Now it goes back to where I was originally going to be taking them to court and fighting it all the way through the court and trying to make this as public and as embarrassing for the bank as I can, he said. Losing the case could mean he'll be ordered to pay the bank's costs, which Williams said could bankrupt him. But he was glad the bank had shown up. My whole thing with running this through the courts is to make it very, very public, he said. Williams said his fight was not about a payout, although he admitted it would be nice to buy a house, but about making an example out of a corporate behemoth that he believed would not admit it got it wrong. So this is a fantastic case, and we'll certainly be following that case with interest, and we definitely wish Ian well, and we do look, of course, forward to hearing of a positive outcome where the banks are finally held to account for their failures. We've all heard of the findings of the Royal Commission into Banking, and we're all aware of the scams and the frauds and the identity theft that have been going on, and banks have an obligation to keep their customers safe, and they are quite clearly not doing that, and they need to be held to account. Now, on the subject of being held to account and exciting court cases, Elon Musk and his X platform just had a really great and much needed victory over Australia's completely out of control eSafety Commissioner. Now, if you missed this article, you definitely want to go and have a read. It is entitled, Elon Musk's X Wins a Free Speech Fight Against eSafety Commissioner. Lawyers for social media platform X have been declared a judgment that found in X's favour against the eSafety Commissioner, a win for free speech in Australia. On Tuesday, the Administrative Review Tribunal struck out an order by Australia's eSafety Commissioner Julie Inman-Grant, which demanded that Elon Musk's X remove a post that insulted a transgender Australian man. The order was made in March 2024 and relates to an X post about a trans rights activist, Teddy Cook. Chris Elston, known on X as Billboard Chris, misgendered and insulted Cook, equated transgender identity with mental illness. Oh, finally, someone's done it. And linked to an article suggesting Cook was too smutty for intergovernmental work. At the time, X complied with an order from Inman-Grant to hide the post from Australian users, but later lodged an appeal against the removal notice. In his ruling, the tribunal's Deputy President, Damien O'Donovan, said he was not satisfied that the post met the statutory definition of cyber abuse material targeted at an Australian adult. The statutory definition is that the offensive content in question must target a specific Australian adult over 18 years of age and be both intended to cause serious harm and menacing, harassing, or offensive in all the circumstances. The more focused question is whether I can be satisfied that the necessary intention to cause serious harm to the subject of the post had been established, he wrote in his ruling. Based on the evidence before me, I am not satisfied that it has. Consequently, the decision of the eSafety Commissioner to issue a removal notice is set aside. This is a win for free speech in Australia, ex-lawyer Quill said in a statement on Tuesday night. It seems clear that this is another example of the eSafety Commissioner overreaching in her role and making politically motivated decisions to moderate what she considers Australians should and shouldn't read and hear from the outside world. So let's hope that there are many more cases brought before the tribunals or courts or whatever the case may be, and let's put this insane eSafety Commissioner well and truly back in her box where she belongs, and let people just get on with freely expressing their views, especially on topics like this transgender nonsense. And let's just do it openly and freely like we used to in the old days, without everybody getting their nose put out of joint and having free speech. All right, so finally, before I finish up, a very quick reminder about our next webinar. Okay, this is the Legal Truth webinar. It's all about how to properly and effectively navigate Aussie. Okay, that is the online resource that we use ourselves, everyone at the Know Your Rights group, to find court cases and relevant sections of legislation. We're also doing a brand new presentation that has never been shown anywhere before in any other event on proper due process. And once you get your head around this and you understand how it works, you'll understand why it is so important for everybody in this country to know. And then, of course, there's that absolute knockout legal argument regarding the King of Australia. So please, if you or anyone you know has any court case, whether it's to do with fines, taxes, rates, family law stuff, anything, make sure you lock in your seat for that webinar, because once you understand that King of Australia argument, it knocks everything out instantly. Okay, that webinar is just over a week away. It's Sunday, the 27th of July. There's only a handful of VIP spots left. So as always, I urge you, do not leave it until the last minute to secure your spot. Otherwise, you will very likely miss out. Now, as always, you'll find those under the webinar tab. So if you go to the seminar tab and then click on webinars, you'll find that fourth webinar, Legal Truth webinar. You'll find that there. There'll be a link going up in the comments. There'll be something in the description, and you can find that there, as well as all the other webinars and the other live events that we have for the rest of this year. All right, and finally, as I always do, I'm going to finish off with the latest testimonials from some of our members, as well, of course, as going through the latest memes to get people thinking. So we have two quite detailed emails tonight. First one's from Jani, to Aussie Speeding Fines and Know Your Rights Group. I had a pretty good outcome yesterday in my court, my second one within 2 years, over an infringement notice issued to me by the Melton City Council. Firstly, the three-step process used in the Aussie Speeding Fines book managed to delay the process for almost 8 months. The Melbourne City Council, like all councils, a pretty tough bunch to deal with, and they refused to withdraw any objection I had on the infringement. They were persistent in taking the matter to court. The infringement was over an authorised officer's reasonable belief that there was an unsightly vegetation on the property which exceeded 20 centimetres. Yes, that's right, 20 centimetres. The infringement falls under General Local Law 2015, Clause 64. So, off to court I went. I pleaded not guilty to the charge when first asked by the magistrate in the contest hearing. I explained to the magistrate that the notice to comply letter sent by council with a specific deadline date to comply was unreasonable and didn't allow me enough time to prepare the vegetation under that height. I also told the magistrate that I'd already sprayed the vegetation with weed killer prior to the notice to comply letter, and that I couldn't control natural law and force the vegetation to fall under the 20 centimetre rule in the time frame given by council, which was around 7 days. Brilliant, love it. She looked at the photos of vegetation accompanying the infringement notice supplied by council and stated that it does look as though you've made an effort to maintain the vegetation. The block does now seem to be more sightly than unsightly. She also asked what the vegetation looked like now. I showed her the latest photos from my iPhone. She could clearly see that the vegetation was well under control even after 8 months. The council's lawyer was probably in favour of an adjournment, as he wanted to consult with council on the matter. I could see his frustration on his face, as he wasn't expecting me to have that killer blow picture of the latest from the property, proving I do control the vegetation even after a lengthy 8-month period. Before the adjournment date was reached and the sentence indication was given by the magistrate, I simply stated to the magistrate, "Your Honour, may I speak?" "Yes, you can." "Your Honour, I don't want to waste any more of the court's time in this matter, and if it pleases the court, and if I plead guilty to the charge, may I be granted Section 76, Victorian Sentencing Act 1991. She replied, "Considering the original photo shows the vegetation more sightly than unsightly, and that council's notice to comply letter didn't give you enough time to prepare the vegetation, and you've also proven the vegetation to date is still maintained with the court, we'll grant you Section 76. On and on it goes. The way I look at it was a great confidence boost for me, as all this is new to me. I've basically followed what I've listened to, read the books I purchased from the guys at Aussie Speeding Fines and Know Your Rights Group, and it's worked for the second time. First time I got off a red light and speed camera at the same time. Several years ago, I would have just paid the infringements with no questions asked. I just made or saved $450, whichever way you look at it. Not bad. I made more than the council's lawyer, who was seeking $328. Now, I could have continued and gone through the whole adjournment process and come back to court several weeks later with more debating, but I didn't want to push my luck just yet. Once again, thanks to Aussie Speeding Fines and Mike from Know Your Rights Group. Thank you all, Yanni. So there you have it. If you stand your ground and keep fighting, you can absolutely have these things withdrawn, have them dismissed, whatever the case may be. And then we've got another detailed one here from Mark, who's one of our long-time members and supporters. Testimonial, another victory. Dear Mike and Aussie Speeding Fines, last year I travelled through the Burnley Tunnel. I did not have a toll account or day pass. Links sent me a demand for $40, claiming they had originally sent me an invoice for $10, and because it was not paid, I was to pay an additional amount on top. I had not received the original $10 invoice and wrote back and told them so. I requested they resend the invoice and stated that even though the roads had been paid for, I would pay the $10. I stated I would not be paying any additional amounts. In the meantime, I attempted to pay via their bank details, yet my payment was not accepted. They failed to reply to my letter. A couple of months later, Victoria Police, KYRG Fines Victoria, sent me a demand for $198. I was so outraged, I immediately opted to go to court. A week later, Victoria Police wrote back stating that following a review, no further action would be taken against me. And there's the actual, he's given us a thing there. So people go, oh, you make these up, they're not true. Well, there it is. Review of traffic camera offence, infringement number, da-da-da-da-da. Between this and this, following a review of the above mentioned matter, I wish to advise that no further police action will be taken against you. I say to everyone, do not just pay a fine. At the very least, opt to have it heard in court. If you change your mind before the court date, you can always pay it. Let's all flood the damn courts with their own criminality. Thanks as always for your support. Regards, Mark. So, yet again, another detailed testimonial with evidence that proves if you follow that tried, tested and proven 3-step process in chapter 3 of that book, you too can have your fines withdrawn, dismissed, whatever the case may be. Please grab that book and recommend it to anyone that you know that is a motorist in this country that has not yet got their own copy. All right, and finally some memes to finish off. So I thought I'd share that one with everyone regarding the comments that I made about Trump at the start of tonight's video. Okay, Trump, now make everyone even more suspicious. Obama and Biden made up the Epstein files. So anyway, as I said, you can make of that what you will. But as I said, the message that I want to get across to people is that Trump, neither Trump nor anyone else, is going to be your savior. You need to take action and save yourselves. Now, we've been hearing a lot about the inflation and what's going on with unrealized profits on assets and all that sort of stuff. And this just explains it as simply as possible. They print more money, causing inflation, so that you have to invest in assets. They then put a capital gains tax on their assets so that you can never actually ever escape that inflation. And this is the system that they're using day in, day out, and most people still don't realise. So, like many, many, many things that we have spoken about over the past 11 years, okay, there's the no, we got it completely wrong jar, and there's the yes, well, the conspiracy theories were confirmed as fact once again jar. And this is the a very simple but very, very powerful one that I want to leave with everybody. This is the key, the knowledge. When you stand up with knowledge, they back away in fear. Okay? You need to get your head around the knowledge. You need to get your head around the information. So on that point, I am going to wind up tonight and urge you all, please, to use all of the resources that are available to you to please get informed, learn that knowledge, get fired up with what you've learned, and then get proactive and take the action that we all need to take this year more than ever before. As always, these videos are completely free to watch. Oh, by the way, we just got a notification that Facebook, who were going to be start deleting all videos after 30 days as of the end of July. They've now pushed that back, I think, to August. So hopefully those videos will remain there a little bit longer. But in the meantime, do be sure to join up and subscribe to our BitChute channel and our YouTube channel as well. There is, of course, completely free information on our websites for everyone to access. Our radio shows, again, completely free to listen to for anyone that wants to tune in every Tuesday night between 8 and 10 p.m. If you've missed any of the live shows, you want to recap on any of the shows over the past 11 years, you can join up as a podcast member for just $5 a week. You get access to the podcast, or the music edited out, our notes for each show, and a full transcript for each show as well. So plenty of valuable information there. If you want to go above and beyond that, of course, we do have our book, The Essential Step-by-Step Manual for Understanding and Exercising Your Rights. Lots of great information there. That tried, tested and proven 3-step process in the Aussie Speeding Fines book for successfully challenging all manner of unjust and unlawful fines. And of course, we do know a lot of people are genuinely struggling financially, so please stop throwing good money after bad at these unsecured loans, your credit cards, personal loans, things like that. Grab that Bank Secrets book. and use their tried, tested and proven 4-step process for discharging those loans. These can all be purchased individually. There's links in the description. You get them all as part of the combo pack. You do get that tote bag included as well as a little bonus. Plus, of course, you save extra money on postage and the like. Don't forget, the cold weather is well and truly upon us. So grab your beanies, keep your heads warm. People see the logo, they come up, they have a chat. It is a great way to meet like-minded people. As I said, we did obviously complete our final live events on the Gold Coast a week or so back, so no more live events of that type moving forwards. If you do want a copy of one of those events, if you missed out, or if you want to just refresh on some of the topics that we covered, please grab that home study course. It is a complete recording of one of those events. There's 3 custom-made workbooks. There's sections to write notes next to every single slide from every single presentation. Okay, there's 17 DVDs plus an extra CD that you can pause, rewind, fast forward in the comfort of your own home at your own pace to learn all of that valuable information. And it is a fantastic resource that you'll come back to again and again. So I'm going to leave things there. Don't forget, make sure you secure your seats for our webinar coming up, not this Sunday, but the following Sunday. Other than that, no live radio show on Tuesday, but we will be replaying this week's show. If you missed that, make sure you listen to all the really important content we covered on toll fines, why tolls for profits are unconstitutional and what you can do to challenge them. And of course, we'll be back next Thursday night with the next live video update. Until then,